Hey Woodies, Woodpops here. I'm at the AAW convention here in Raleigh, North Carolina, and I've got some great stuff going on. You want to stick around, watch this video. I got an interview with John Jordan. Stick around, don't go anywhere. You don't want to miss it. I'm here with John Jordan, who needs no introduction, famous wood turner. So John, first of all, I appreciate you taking a few minutes out of your time to sit here and talk with me. It's most appreciated. Let's jump right in here with the first question. So John, I hear that you do 50, 60 pieces a year. Is that true?
Well, I often say maybe 50 or 60 pieces a year, but that's not usually 50 or a piece a week, but rather over a month or two, I might make a dozen pieces or something like that. So they come in batches, and just depends on the year.
Sure. So you're well known for your hollow forms. How did you first decide that that was really what you were interested in, that form?
Well, I don't really know how I came to do that, but there weren't many people doing it. When I started, Dave Ellsworth, Bill Hunter, and I just figured if they could do it, I could do it. And I liked the feel of it. I liked the hollow forms as a canvas to do carving and texturing on. I was always interested in the carving and texturing, so I like those closed forms because it gives me a lot of surface to work with.
Speaking of carving and texturing, did you first start out and say, I'm going to make this piece and then carve it and texture it, or did it just, you finished a piece and you looked at it and said, that needs something else, I think I'll try carving?
Well, I don't know that I thought it needed something else, but I'm not sure what I'd seen that led me to it, but it was very early on that I started applying small amounts of texture, a collar around an opening with some texture, or I used to carve a lot of little radial flutes, a little band around the opening, and that became more and more, and so these days very few pieces escape having a little bit of texture on them. Sometimes maybe it's only the opening, but
yeah. I noticed a lot of the people in wood turning today that are professionals started their careers doing craft shows. Is that how you got started professionally?
I did. I started right off doing craft shows. In fact, I was in the electronic banking business, ATMs, that sort of thing, and I wanted to quit. I was vested with a company. I said I'd work that long and then quit, but it's kind of hard to screw up the courage to do that.
Yeah.
And but I had applied to my first craft show and been accepted, and then the company I worked for was rearranging, so I was laid off or fired or whatever one might choose to say, and I got paid for a few months, so made a little money on the craft show there, and we had a new baby, and but never looked back. So we had some lean years, but did a lot of local a lot of local craft shows for the first few years, and then started doing the higher end craft shows at the Smithsonian and the Philadelphia Museum of Art, and mostly over the years those are the only ones that I did, the high-end shows.
So a lot of people out there have been turning for a while and are thinking about transitioning and selling their stuff at craft shows or art shows. What piece of advice could you give them?
Well, I'm afraid I wouldn't be terribly encouraging right now. If you're going to make if you make higher end stuff like a lot of us do, the market's much tougher now than it was when we started. We had some pretty flush years there where you could sell a fair amount of work. I suspect, and again, I have no figures to back this up, but knowing what I know, I suspect the guy that wants to try to make a living doing shows and stuff is to make good, nice functional salad bowls, and maybe some small decorative pieces that are not terribly expensive. $200-300 salad bowl, people can do pretty well with those, and there's some people doing that. But you have to be really productive and and discipline to do that. If you're making higher end stuff and art type stuff, I don't know. I don't have good advice. It's not to say you can't do it, and I wouldn't be discouraging, but by the same token, it's going to be a tough road. And it was tough even when the times were good for us, you know. So starting now, I'm just not sure how that would go, because along with that came when, you know, my work was always commensurate with the type show that I was doing, which attracted the kind of buyers I needed for my work, which meant that there were gallery and people at a level of the work I was doing that would come to the shows. And so as the shows got better, the gallery people became better, the buyers became better, and so we went that way. But now the high-end shows, you know, they're not very many and they're very difficult to get in, and I'm not sure that there are the buyers there used to be. I don't know.
John, it's widely known that most of your pieces, if not all of them, are turned out of green wood. And you know, we wood turners, we love turning green woods because it's easy and it's big, huge shavings come off. But even me, I'm a little bit intimidated to turn it because I'm afraid of the cracks and the checks and the movement. And you seem to have that nailed down.
It's not a mystery.
How do you do that?
I teach that. Well, there are articles on the website you can read about it. You know, I got a DVD on the subject.
I saw your DVD, yeah.
But it's pretty basic, a little basic information. I have zero problems. It's a non-issue, and if not, I can do it. Anybody can do it. It's not a secret. There's nothing complicated about it. But you do have to understand it, as in most things, you know.
Yeah. Another thing that I noticed when I have your DVD, by the way. I watch it, you know, every year or so to refresh my memory. And one of the things that I find interesting about it is, you know, when I look at a log that I'm going to cut up and make blanks, I look at it and say, how many blanks can I get out of this? And it seems that's not what you do. You look at it a whole different way than most of us do.
I'm exactly the opposite. I look for, you know, I see one piece.
Yeah.
That's what I'm concerned with, is the piece I'm about to make. So, I mean, you know, we know that really there's a lot of wood in there, and but I don't mind being a little wasteful. I would rather have one very best piece than two okay pieces, and that's kind of what I'm at. Obviously, if you've got a big chunk of wood, you're going to get other pieces out of it, but I only focus on the one, so I'm seeing the one right now, and then we'll take what's left, and then we'll see what we have there. But I never compromise the pieces to maximize the material. I'm using basically free wood. I mean, I pay some money for some of it, but it's not a lot of money, and it's basically wood, you know, that's going to be dumped or mulched or split into firewood. So,
one of the things I notice and love about your work is you seem to be able to use the grain and the character, the pith, if you're going to use it, the sapwood, the heartwood. You seem to use all of that absolutely flawlessly in your pieces.
Well, that's what, if anything, really makes my work stand out. I think it's that attention to the grain orientation and using sapwood as a highlight, or grain patterns, and that careful orientation pays off so many times. And if you look at things in like the instant gallery here, for example, and you find things that you like, or see things that attract you, not always, but very often you'll see that person has put those things into play with the careful orientation of the wood and stuff. And it can take a good piece and make it just add that last little bit.
Yeah, I noticed the first few times I watched your DVD, you know, I started thinking, and then I looked at some of your pieces closer, and when you first look at one of your pieces, you see the form, and a lot of people, I think, just look at that and move on. But if you really look closely at your pieces, the way you use the grain and the shadows and the way you carve it and the texturing you do, I mean, it really tells a story.
Well, I like to talk about, I say that I make things for the 10th person. That is, 9 people will walk by and take a look and say, oh, that's nice or whatever. But then the 10th person sorts of, takes the time to really look, and they go, oh. And so I like to say that I turn for that 10th person.
Well, it's definitely, yeah. If you're that 10th person and you look, there's a lot to see in the John Jordan piece.
You bet there is.
Yeah. I just wanted to ask you briefly. You're on Instagram. I follow you on Instagram.
I am.
And,
relatively new to it.
Yeah, you are. And I wondered how that came about. Who turned you on to that, and how's it helping your wood turning?
Well, a number of people have asked me, am I on Instagram? And I keep saying, yeah, I mean to. And so one day I actually did it, and I found that I liked it because even though I don't do Facebook, but my wife does, and it's kind of a wasteland, and and there's a lot of ignorance and hate and just ugliness in general.
Yeah.
And so I don't have any interest in that. And I found the wood turning forums. I participate in some of those. I have for long time now. But I don't know. They'll beat one thing to death, and it's difficult for me to say very much because people like to sort of take shots at me, if I say something. and as they say, don't argue on the internet.
Yeah.
It's hard to tell who's the biggest fool,
Yeah.
And so with Instagram, we're just looking at work, and I follow potters, some woodworkers, a lot of wood turners, jewelers, metalsmiths. I'm a metal worker as well, so I follow some steel guys, a couple of motorcycle builder guys, things like people that interest me, and artists, painters, photographers, and so basically you just get to look at work. And so what I do is I share a picture of maybe some older work, maybe some new work, or maybe something I'm working on, and people seem to enjoy that 1-minute clip of a little turning technique or a piece in process or something.
Yeah, I love it.
So it's been fun, and I've met a surprising, I used to think I knew, well, I did know everyone once upon a time, and I guess I still have in my head that I mostly still know everybody, but then I've discovered with Instagram that actually there's a pretty big wood turning community out there that's not part of AAW. And some pretty good ones. There's some pretty good turners there.
Yeah.
So I've enjoyed that and getting to know some people that way. And you have some good general conversations with people and get to know them a little bit, kind of outside of the photos and stuff. And so I've enjoyed that.
Yeah, that's pretty good. So wrapping it up here, the piece of advice that you give people, I love your saying that follows you around, and you know what it is, that one piece of advice you give everybody?
Yep. Life's too short to turn crappy wood.
I got it.
All right.
I appreciate it, John. Thanks a lot. You've been great. Okay. Well, I hope you liked that interview with John Jordan. If you did, be sure and click the like button down there. If you haven't subscribed yet, I'd appreciate it if you click on my picture and subscribe. Ring the little bell so you'll be notified. And I've got the next video set up for you right over there. Watch it.